Today's video, I'm finally going to be sharing with you guys all of my thoughts and feelings concerning Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. So if you guys are curious about what I thought and felt about it, then stay tuned because I'm about to tell you. Hello everyone, it is Sam, and I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I am a little bit excited and a little bit apprehensive to talk with you guys today about Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, which of course is the Harry Potter play that was just released this past week. And I'm a little apprehensive only because I feel like some of my opinions might be a little bit unpopular, but you know what? They're my opinions, and I am going to stand by them and my feelings concerning this play and be honest with you guys. So yes. So as I know that not everyone has had a chance to read it yet, I am going to keep the first part of this review video spoiler-free. However, there are some very specific things that I want to talk about this play and the story that are going to be spoilery because it's impossible to talk about them without talking about specific plot points. So I'll let you guys know when I get into the spoilery bits so you guys can be well aware and warned before I say anything that is in fact a spoiler, because I don't want anybody mad at me and I don't want to ruin it for anybody. So yeah, I will let you know when that will start. But first I'm going to give you my general review of this play. So Harry Potter and the Cursed Child is being labeled as the 8th Harry Potter story. It actually takes up where the epilogue starts in the 7th Harry Potter book. So that entire epilogue is how this play starts, and then it kind of goes on from there. It follows Harry, Ron, and Hermione's children, in particular Harry and Ginny's child of Albus Severus, and it kind of shows his coming of age and all that entails, and kind of how he ends up leaving his own mark on the wizarding world and kind of living up to the legacy that is his father. So that's kind of the general synopsis of the story. It's hard to say anything else without spoiling it. It's kind of a hard plot to describe without giving it away, basically the story, so I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to ruin it for anyone. My general impressions with the play were that I really did not enjoy it. I did not like the story, and it has nothing to do with it being a play whatsoever. I have read plays. I enjoy Shakespeare. Hamlet is one of my favorite plays by him. I enjoy Thornton Wilder. Our Town is one of my favorite plays by him. I enjoy plays. I've read plays, and they can be an enjoyable experience to read. However, I did not enjoy this one. Had nothing to do with it being a play. I knew it was going to be a play months before it was released. It had everything to do with the writing. I did not like the writing. And I know that yes, a play is meant to be acted on stage and you're going to have a different experience when you read it versus seeing it as a production. However, I will say that poor writing definitely affects a production in any form. Think about any type of show that you love. For example, Grimm. I liked Grimm, but the past couple of seasons have sucked, and it has nothing to do with the actors because I've seen them act very well in other things and in the beginning of the show. However, the story has been terrible, and therefore the writing has been bad and just hasn't been very good. Or think about the last couple of seasons of Lost. The last couple of seasons of Lost were terrible, and that had everything to do with the writing of the story. Or for that matter, Clara from Doctor Who. She was one of my least favorite companions, and part of that's because she had very inconsistent writing in terms of her character, and it was just all over the place and it wasn't consistent, and all of these things kind of come down to poor writing, not the actors. You can have an excellent actor and this movie, play, show, whatever will still not be good because the writing is kind of crappy. So I'm going to be very forthright here and say that I really think that good writing really goes into the play, no matter if it is going to be performed or read. It is important. And of course, as we know, J.K. Rowling did not write this play. She provided the story and the general plot points. However, Jack Thorne and John Tiffany were the writers of this play, and I think it really showed because it felt very inconsistent with J.K. Rowling's own writing. The characters didn't really feel the same. The same feel wasn't really there. So the writing in general, I just was not the fan of. Like, an example of this would be the actual line from the play that said her spikes were spiky. I know that this was meant to be a direction in terms of what it should look like. However, I think that you could describe spikes as something other than spiky, like sharp or pointy. It just was an example of kind of weak writing, even though it's not something that would actually be said in the play because it was kind of like a direction, but you get my point. I just was not a fan of the writing. I also felt like there was a lot of plot holes. It wasn't consistent with the story and the plot and the information we have from the original 7 Harry Potter books. I'll get more into that later because again that will require me to spoil you for some of the events. So in general, I just wasn't the biggest fan of this. I just didn't like it. I didn't really like where the story went. I didn't like the story itself. I honestly feel like it was an instance of where they should have quit with it while they were ahead. I don't think that a story set after the original 7 Harry Potter books should have been done. I think if anything, they should have done a prequel story featuring the Marauders or even a young Tom Riddle, something to do with the past. I just feel like they should have left the future alone, but that's just me. Some of the things I did like actually were the relationship between Harry and his son Albus. I did feel it was realistic, though I wasn't always convinced with Albus's actions or where he was coming from. Like, it kind of lacked a little bit of background there, but I did feel like their relationship was realistic. As one of my friends, Leanne, from Literary Diversion said in her review, which I'll leave down below because it's an excellent review, they both are two characters that have gotten to this point in their relationship and you're not quite sure how they got there or how to fix it. And I think that that's realistic because I think a lot of people, in terms of their family and friends, have had relationships like that. Relationships sour and you're not always quite sure how you've gotten to that point or where you're going to go from now. So I did appreciate how realistic that is. I also really, really like the character of Scorpius, even though that's a terrible character name. He was probably the saving grace of the story. I really, really liked his character and how his character kind of developed. I really enjoyed that. So I enjoyed both of those two things. However, they were not enough to make me not give this play 1 star. I was not the biggest fan for very specific reasons, which I will now get into. So from this point forward in the video, it is going to be spoiler filled. So fair warning, you have been warned. If you have not read it and you don't want to be spoiled, then I would not continue watching this video. All right, spoiler discussion on Harry Potter and the Cursed Child and my issues with it. The first thing I want to talk about is the relationship between Albus and Scorpius. It was very apparent while reading this story that there was romantic tension between Albus and Scorpius. And I'm not the only one that feels this way. I have read other people who have felt the same way. There was just a lot of things that they said and the actions that they did that would lead you to believe that they had romantic feelings for each other. I felt like their relationship was an instance of queerbaiting where you're trying to pull in a specific demographic of people to read and watch this play and order to appeal to them, and then with no real intention of that actually happening. I think that that's a little disingenuous, and I think it was a little bit wrong, and it really bothered me. And I wasn't the only one that felt this way. A lot of people saw that tension between these two characters. Like, if you're gonna do it, if you're going to allude to these things, then you should follow through instead of basically lying to the reader. That is my opinion. Yes. So it basically felt kind of like the relationship between Simon, what's his name from Carry On? I can't remember the other character's name for some reason. I'm trying to blank on it. But it felt very much like their relationship. And like, you're like, yeah, people like that. Let's do that. But not really. That's kind of how it felt like. And it felt very disingenuous. And I don't think it was right. The second reason why I had an issue with this book was the plot holes. There were several very large plot holes for me. First one is kind of a minor one, but it really irked me, and that had to do with the Polyjuice Potion. As we know from the Harry Potter series, Polyjuice Potion takes a month to brew. It's a very hard potion to brew, but apparently in the Cursed Child, you can just whip it out like nobody's business, because Delphi apparently just happens to have some Polyjuice Potion laying around. And then I'm like, okay, maybe she already had that pre-made or something, fine. But then later in the book, when they're trying to figure out how to turn somebody into Voldemort to, like, you know, confront Delphi so she doesn't see her dad, and then everybody's like, oh, Matilda Bagshot's house over there, I bet she has some Polyjuice Potion ingredients because apparently we can just whip it up in an hour. Like, what? Also, I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you can't just transfigure somebody into another person that easily. That felt a little too, like, convenient, I guess, and I felt like it's really hard to turn. Well, transfiguration in general was always supposed to be really hard. Like, turning into an animagus was extremely difficult, which is why it was impressive that, you know, the Marauders were able to do that. So what? It was like, yeah, we're all gonna whip out our wands and turn you into Voldemort, like that. It just felt very, very convenient and contrived. Second plot hole that really bugged me was the lack of Sirius Black. As we know from the Harry Potter series, Sirius Black shows up at Harry's house after his parents have been killed, and Hagrid is there trying to fetch Harry to Dumbledore. And as we know from the Harry Potter series, he tries to get Harry from Hagrid. Hagrid refuses, and instead Sirius gives Hagrid his bike. However, at the end of this story, when Harry and Ron and Hermione and Ginny and their kids are all there confronting, once again, the murder of Harry's parents, and they see Hagrid come to the ruins of Harry's house and grab Harry, there is no Sirius Black at all. I mean, yeah, sure, he could have been down the street. Somehow I doubt it. I really do, and it really bugged me that they didn't include that in this story when it was kind of a big plot point, especially for the third book. So I'm like, where's Sirius Black? Where's Motorcycle? Like, why did you just leave it out? It felt very slapdash and it felt very sloppy, and that was another thing that really irked me. The third thing that really bugged me were a couple of really creepy moments in my opinion. The first one is when they took the Polyjuice Potion for the first time, or I guess the only time, and Albus is under the guise of Ron, and he has to fend off Hermione from entering her office. So he fends her off by kissing her a lot. Like, they even mentioned that he kisses her a lot. Even Scorpius is kind of like, dude, that was a little creepy. You kissed her a lot. Like, that is your aunt. Why are you kissing her so much? It's creepy. I'm sorry, but it was like icky. I couldn't. Like, there's other ways to fend your aunt off. Even though you're looking like her husband, there's other ways you could have done it than like sitting there kissing your aunt. Like, it just, I don't know. It really bothered me for some reason, and it felt a little bit over the top. And the second thing that I thought was rather disturbing was the slightly pedophilic relationship between Delphi and Albus. Delphi would have been like in her 20s at this point, because she was supposed to have been conceived shortly before the Battle of Hogwarts, and of course we know it's been about 20-ish years since then. And then Albus is 14, and he has romantic feelings for Delphi that she is obviously encouraging, because later in the story, Scorpius brings up these letters they've been exchanging. And that, I'm sorry, is it's very creepy to me, and I don't even know why they included it in the story. It just felt wrong. There was no reason to kind of have this weird romantic tension between those two as well. Like, it just rubbed me the wrong way, and I thought that it was unnecessary and more than a little creepy. My next issue is the fact that we need to stop making Severus Snape the hero. I am sorry, but I will never be a fan of Severus Snape. I recognize that, yes, he may have loved Lily, he may have had feelings for her, he may have sacrificed a lot in his life to do what he did, and yes, he did help save the wizarding world, but that does not make him a hero, nor does it negate his actions towards innocent children. The man was an emotionally and physically, at times, abusive person. There was no reason to take out his anger and his bitterness on these little kids. It's not Harry's fault what happened, and you're persecuting somebody that was more like his mother than his father. And again, in this story, we see Severus Snape again being hailed as a hero, and even then, his character didn't really feel like it did in the novels. We're supposed to be in this alternate reality where Voldemort has risen to power, and he's still working at Hogwarts, working with this guerrilla force that's trying to subvert Voldemort's power. But his character didn't feel at all like Snape. He was a little less bitter and scathing. He was a little bit more kind than I remember him being. And again, we see him being vilified as a hero again by Scorpius's character. And I'm like, no, we just need to stop. Stop making Snape the hero, as we again see him sacrifice himself yet again for the cause. And I'm like, just... I know it's an unpopular opinion, but I will never like Snape because I find him to be a very abusive person, and I don't think... I find him to be a very abusive and selfish person, and I don't think that his actions justify the means. I don't. So I was a little bit irked to see him once again being hailed as a hero, even in this alternate reality, and that was another thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But going back to Snape's inconsistent character, I would also like to highlight a couple of other instances where I saw this happening. One of the other alternate realities in which Hermione did not end up with Ron, and we see Hermione teaching at Hogwarts as a very bitter female version of Snape, and I really have a hard time seeing this happening. I really don't think, no matter what happened to Hermione, even if she did lose the love of her life, I can't see her becoming such a bitter and cruel and emotionally abusive person like Snape. She was somebody that was very strong in her moral convictions, somebody that believed that you should treat other people with fairness and kindness, and I don't think that anything would ever really compromise that for her, at least not the situation they were providing for that change, which of course would be Ron not ending up being her husband, being her one true love. And I don't think that that is enough cause for Hermione's behavior, so I felt that was a little inconsistent. The other inconsistent characterization I felt was Cedric Diggory himself. Yes, he was humiliated, and that task that Albus and Scorpius tried to change. However, I don't think humiliation alone would be the thing that would make Cedric Diggory evil and become a Death Eater himself. I just have a really, really hard time buying that. I don't think that that is something that he would do. He was a very highly moral character. He had high standards. He believed in doing right, and I really don't think that being humiliated in front of Hogwarts, all of Hogwarts, yes, that would be awful, but I don't think it would be enough to kind of turn him towards the dark side. So that was another thing that I felt was a little inconsistent about his character. And the last thing that bugged me was basically the existence of Delphi in general. So let me get this straight. We're talking about the most evil Dark Lord ever, who has done many, many magical experiments in order to transform himself into this evil, disgusting creature that he is, including ripping apart his actual soul. And I am supposed to believe that that man is not only thinking about having, getting on with somebody else, this other person being Bellatrix, the fact that he would actually be able to produce a child. I feel like if he had transformed himself that much, all the things that he had done to himself up to this point, all the things that happened to him, I somehow don't think he would have the ability to produce children. I'm just not buying it. And he also never really struck me as the type to just willy-nilly, have sex with someone, especially Bellatrix. It felt like also inconsistent character. I felt like he would be the type of person that wouldn't be focused on that. He would be focused more on gaining his power, etc. I just have a hard time seeing Voldemort doing that. And not to mention, like, Bellatrix. Yeah, she's crazy, but think about the description of Voldemort. I would have found it more believable if they would have said he used some type of spell that took his essence, the essence of Bellatrix or something, to produce this child. I would have found that more believable than Bellatrix actually, like, giving birth to Voldemort's kid. I don't know. I felt like that was kind of weak. Just me. So that basically sums up most of my issues with this novel and a lot of the reason why I didn't enjoy it. It was the poor writing, the inconsistent characterization, the plot holes, some of the vaguely creepiness in general of the book. And I really didn't like it. If you guys enjoyed it, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. These are my personal opinions. I just was not a fan. I had a hard time letting go of some of these big issues that I had with it enough to enjoy it. I definitely wish they would have left it alone. I think that if anything, if they wanted to do any kind of a story set in this world, they should focus on the past, kind of like they are doing with Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I think a Marauders play would have been fantastic. Something focusing on Sirius and James. That would have been really great to see. But I really think that they missed the mark with this one, and that it should never have been done. Like, I don't even want to see the play. I have no desire to see the play after reading the story because I'm just not into the story. And I feel bad because I was kind of excited going into this. I had lower expectations, but I was like, I'm going to see what this is. This is my childhood. I loved Harry Potter since I was 11 years old. First 3 books were out. I've been obsessed with it since then. That was 17 years ago, and I am disappointed, I think. I think it's time to just let Harry Potter go, kind of be its thing, and I hope that they will do that from this point forward. I mean, there's a reason Tolkien did not come out with a 4th Lord of the Rings book featuring Samwise's and Aragorn's and Arwen's children. Sometimes you just gotta quit while you're ahead. Alright guys, that is it for my review and discussion of Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys don't hate me too much. These are just some of the feelings and issues that I had with this book. You'll have to let me know what you thought, if you agree with any of these things, or what your thoughts were on the book in general. You'll have to let me know because I would like to discuss it with all of you. Thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day. And until next time, happy reading. Bye!